This is some of the absolute most unhinged stuff I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not even joking when I'm telling you that you're being played a fool, right? This whole scheme is so ridiculously funny because it's that stupid. It is insane that people are not waking up, but hopefully you understand that you're being played. Take a look at this. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says a government shutdown could lead to a recession. Why is that funny, you might ask? Well, because even though I'll expand upon that later, because I've got to explain a couple of different things to get the full story straight. I want you guys to take a look at this first before we go over into, oh, the shutdown didn't happen, it's been delayed, this, that, because we've got some more breaking news. The Fed's dream of a soft landing is facing a triple threat. And the amount of times they mentioned soft landing all of a sudden skyrocketed, like back in the different times of crises, or at least slightly before. You can see it peaked in the 2000s. Quickly afterwards, a big recession came. It peaked in the 2006 ends, and then about a year and a bit later, another recession came. And then right now it's peaking again, leading us to believe that, well, we're gonna have another major disaster soon enough. And again, most of the numbers are backing that up. Stock market to crash, bankruptcy filings soar to dangerous levels. I think anybody with half a brain could understand that business-wise, right now we're in a pretty crazy period where it's not as certain as it's been for the last couple of decades. Again, there are massive warnings of hyperinflation. People don't trust their government, which again can be seen from all these recent headlines. Government shut down, live updates, but well, apparently things were saved. Or were they? I've got this story for you guys, and my thoughts about this are along the lines of what was happening was the economy was not doing too well, or rather, it was setting itself up for some major disaster. We're all expecting a massive stock market crash, the recession to hit hard, but the economists over at the top have said, no, it's going to be a soft landing. We're not going to be hurt too much. Inflation is going to be fine if we just continue with our policy. But all of a sudden, all right, something happened. Oh, a government shutdown. And then now they've got a reason to say, well, you see, because of all this government shutdown stuff, now we're heading into a recession. It wouldn't have otherwise happened, everything would have been fine, but government shutdown. And right now, it's like, oh, no, actually, you know what? There's a new measure to try and save it still, to not get into this recession because of the shutdown. But what has really changed, right? If I really ask you now, what has happened now that they have averted this massive shutdown? Because there was a massive deadline exactly at midnight, and just an hour before or so, they've got an emergency ruling.
We will keep the government open for 45 days with a clean CR at current funding levels. And we avoided all of the extreme, nasty, and harmful cuts MAGA Republicans wanted. No 30% cuts across the board. No 30% cuts to things like health care, to the Social Security Administration, to the nutrition programs for kids. Full reauthorization of the FAA until December 31st. And the poison pill amendments, of which there were scores, MAGA-inspired riders, were all removed from the bill. After trying to take our government hostage, MAGA Republicans won nothing. So one more time, it is good Speaker McCarthy finally heeded our message that bipartisanship was and is and remains the only way. He could have made this decision weeks ago. Now, I've said from day one, this is a bridge CR, a temporary solution, not the final destination. We will not stop fighting for more economic and security assistance for Ukraine. Majorities in both parties support Ukraine aid, and doing more is vital for America's security and for democracy around the world. But this CR is still very good news for the American people. Today, MAGA extremists have failed, bipartisanship has prevailed, and both parties have come together to avert a shutdown.
And I don't want to be that guy, right, to talk about where money should go. But I think, again, I'm trying to be as objective here as possible, right? But I think Elon Musk put up a good little point. why do so many American politicians from both parties care so much more about some other specific country's borders than their own? And in this case here again, the argument that was brought up right now was, again guys, I am not taking any side about whether or not they're wrong or right. All I'm saying is, because I'm trying to be careful here, as again, we are talking about human lives. I am saying here though, this government is talking about, oh, we need to shut down, things are so bad. Send more money. You know, everything's going really bad here, but we just averted it by 45 days. We're taking some extra time to figure everything out. But it's very important we keep sending money to another country. Again, following the perspective of that perhaps what they're sending money to is more important, sure. But it's funny that that's happening in the exact same discussion. I think these two should be completely separate. One is talk about how to save your own country, and one is how to save other people. Regardless of how important you think sending money across the world is, these are not supposed to be in the same exact talk. Government shutdown live updates. Biden signed stopgap funding measure. He just signed the 45-day stopgap funding measure on Saturday night, with Congress failing to agree on spending. The U.S. is barreling down towards what could be one of the largest government shutdowns in history. Again, it was just subverted for 45 more days. And if they don't, 3.5 million federal workers are expected to go without a paycheck. Millions of women and children could lose nutritional assistance, national parks would likely close, and more. And so I don't understand how right now, amidst everything crumbling in your own home, you're thinking about sending out this money. It's noble from the perspective that, hey, if somebody else needs it more, I'm gonna send it there. But I don't think that's the right approach to convincing people everything is fine in your own country. Which leads me again to our earlier conclusion of, they know things are crumbling down, they know things are falling. So they're basically trying to subvert everything, because ask yourself, what have they really done here, right? He's trying to stopgap measure. All this means is, well, we're not shutting down right now, but perhaps, you know, quickly later on we are. Because nothing really has changed except for just delaying things. At least that's as far as I've understood all this. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comment section down below. And by the way, make sure you press that like button if you're enjoying these daily videos. It's a little bit different than my usual crypto news, but that's because I think this might affect everybody that owns anything more than just purely crypto news. And so I thought it's worth sharing and talking about, because I think it's absolutely ridiculous what's happening here. Again, I guess you could also point out why we are getting so heavily into crypto, because, well, the dollar just keeps losing more and more of its value, and I guess government officials, as we're seeing from all these articles and from, well, some of their quotes, are losing more and more of their trustworthiness as well. Perhaps crypto is one of these solutions. And again, all these articles are so funny. The American people can breathe a sigh of relief. There will be no government shutdown tonight. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it can happen, you know, any day still. But not today, all right? Not today. And, you know, and I guess here is something nice to remember if you want to see this from a positive perspective. If I have to die, or I have to die, if it is now, well, then I die now. If later, then now I will take my lunch, since the hour for lunch has arrived, and dying I will tend to later. I'd say it still applies here too. I mean, if we shut down now, well, we shut down now. And if we shut down later, we'll see. Let's have our cake. Let's make this money. Let's continue on with everything. And the shutdown, we'll see later. Now, you can take that two sides. You can also think about it from the perspective of anything I can delay, I will delay, because at least I can do something else right now then. But that's on the basis now that it's gonna shut down. It's gonna come crumbling down. Either it's now or later, but it's gonna happen. What you do in the meantime, well, it doesn't really matter, because inevitably it is going to happen. But I guess at least enjoy it now that it's not there yet. Perhaps they did not approve a spot Bitcoin ETF yet because they understand that if they did, too much money would flow into these other parts, like for example Bitcoin via the ETF form. Because take a look at what happened to gold after the ETF was introduced. You can see just how much more money came into this sector, and perhaps knowing that the dollar just keeps on losing its value, and Bitcoin is a good hedge against just things going worse and shutting down, etc., etc., etc. They might want to wait until things are even worse so that people are not even thinking of Bitcoin anymore or whatever, or just trying to get it not done. I don't know. Just understand that from my perspective, you're being played a fool, all right? They're looking at your face, spitting in it and laughing at you, and there's almost nothing you can do. But as long as you understand that regardless of what happens, they'll try to spin the story in their own benefit. Or they'll spin it like they knew all along, or they'll spin it that something good just happened even though it's ridiculously bad. As long as you understand, they'll always manipulate that news, and I guess the economy, you're golden. Because as long as you can see through it, at least you're living a real life. At least you're not being played a fool, and you can take appropriate action. But again, that is just my theory. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed this little video update about the current economic affairs, because It's some of the crazier stuff we've seen in a good while, you know? Pretty big action though. But I'll see you guys again in another crypto video or whatever, macro video, something like that later today.